Have you heard or seen this in your profession? Joe, an owner-operator, comes into your location looking to replace his front tires for the first time. His tires have held up fairly well. He wants to replace these with another good brand of tires. Because the old tires had no abnormal wear, he chooses not to do any other recommended maintenance, such as replacing the shocks. The following year, he comes back in for a full set of tires. However, he is upset, complaining about a deteriorated ride and only 90,000 miles life on the front steer due to cupping. Now he is questioning the quality of the tires you sold him. Unfortunately, we see this situation all too often, causing owner-operators and small fleets thousands if not tens of thousands of dollars in additional expenses. These additional expenses are often the result of worn shocks, which are probably the most misunderstood preventative maintenance item on the truck. When we look for the root cause of aggressive tire wear, we can usually narrow it down to one of the following issues: shocks, air, alignment, balance, bearings. If you check everything but fail to replace the worn shocks, then your tire life may suffer due to scalloped cupping. Taking the time to explain these issues are one of the most beneficial things you can do for your customer. Today, we want to focus on safety and tire wear as related to shocks. The goal is to help you better explain to your customers what is the function of the shock and how it protects the truck, trailer, and tires from added wear and severe accidents. Shock absorbers are designed to help control the movement of suspensions by dampening bounces. When a vehicle drives over a bump or an irregularity on the road surface, the job of the suspension springs is to lessen the impact of the bump to the body and frame and to the passengers. The job of the shock absorbers is to dampen the motion of the springs, stilling them after they have done their job going over a bump. That is, shocks keep springs from going boing boing down the road. As we have moved from stiff multi-leaf suspensions that rarely needed shocks to modern parabolic and air spring suspensions that rely on shocks for both safety and maximum tire life, the service mindset associated with this change has not fully evolved. An owner-operator or fleet owner might still be resistant to the idea of changing the shocks on his truck and trailer unless they see the shock is either broken or leaking. However, shocks normally wear out slowly and generally do not show physical signs of performance loss. We need to remember that Class 8 truck shocks will average over 10 million strokes in approximately 100,000 miles of travel, slowly wearing inner components. Shocks work with only hydraulic fluid that is not capable of lubricating like engine oil. As the shock wears, dampening decreases. Tire cupping and loss of control increases significantly when dampening drops below 50% of the original specs. So how can we help your customer better understand that replacing shocks as a preventative maintenance item will save them money and potentially protect lives? GABRIEL heavy-duty shocks are specially engineered for long life, durability, superior vehicle component protection, and ease of maintenance, but most importantly, designed to help maintain safe control. A key design element of this is GABRIEL's 10-stage multi-valve system that allow for comfortable dampening on smooth surfaces while providing extra stiff dampening during emergency situations. Without shock dampening, modern suspensions have up to 8 to 12 inches of up and down movement. Just imagine a truck carrying a load with a high center of gravity needs to avoid an accident by swerving hard in multiple directions. It's critical the shock can respond with high dampening to minimize sway. If in this scenario, the shocks are badly worn, there can be a combined sway of over 20 inches at the axle, which would equate to multiple feet of sway at the top of the trailer or truck. The cumulative effect of the momentum shift with a high load center of gravity has unfortunately led to rollovers, some involving injuries and fatalities. Worn shocks have been identified in many such accident reports as the contributing cause of the rollover. Beside potential safety issues, there is a financial incentive for changing the shocks as part of a preventative maintenance practice. Key suspension components, such as overextended air springs and kingpin wear, are directly related to worn shocks. However, the number one cost-saving advantage provided by shocks is protecting the tire from premature tire wear due to scalloped cupping. Tires are not only the #1 maintenance cost item, they also happen to have the same general life expectancy of shocks. New shocks reduce the opportunity for cupping to occur, reducing tire wear by 20 to 50%. In turn, new tires help reduce the workload and wear on shocks. By replacing shocks and tires at the same time, you get the biggest bang for your buck. So how does this work, and what is the real savings considering the additional maintenance cost of changing the shocks? SAE studies show the difference between a good performing shock and a worn shock has significant influence on tire footprint impact forces as it travels over bumps on the road. New shocks minimize the tire footprint force variation, helping keep the tire in a more consistent contact with the road. In comparison, an excessively worn shock can allow 4 times greater footprint force variation on both the top and bottom of each bounce. This allows for greater wheel hop, reducing control of the vehicle, and allows more exaggerated distortion of the tire, accelerating wear. This distortion causes the tire to scrape against the road, initiating the cupping. This is particularly harmful to tires on roads with a natural rhythmic bounce, as it quickly sets a cupping or scalloped pattern on the tire. At highway speed, this rhythmic bounce is occurring every 6/10 of a second. Once that scallop pattern is set, the wear builds exponentially. We know tire cupping occurs when the shock can no longer effectively protect against rhythmic bouncing. We also know shocks last about the same life as the tire, depending on road conditions, approximately 150,000 miles for steer and 250,000 for rear. Since cupping starts off at just a couple millionths of an inch and slowly builds from there, it can take tens of thousands of miles before it can be felt or seen. Therefore, the first set of tires with new shocks will rarely experience a cupping issue. However, the replacement sets of tires with the old shocks offer many prime examples of scalloped tires. So, do you want to put at risk your expensive set of new tires with old shocks? Even if you just postpone putting on new shocks by a few days, there is a good chance the customer will operate over some poor roads and begin the early cupping process on their new tires. New shocks put on afterwards may help slow the cupping progression, but won't stop it once the pattern is established in the tire. This may be hard to explain to a customer, especially if there is no visible cupping evidence on his old tires. The physical appearance of the shock more often than not looks fine. It may not be broken or leaking, and if taken off, it still has resistance. But remember, the resistance you may be experiencing is limited to your arm strength at slow movement and is nowhere comparable to the heavy weight and high-speed resistance the vehicle demands of the shock. Therefore, it is important to put in perspective the performance life of a shock, which is designed to last the life of a tire, not multiple tires. As with any maintenance item, you need to consider its investment value. After fuel, tires are by far the next most expensive operating cost. Let's just look at Joe's tire example again, where the steer's tire life dropped 30%. So given a good set of steers are $1,200 or more, a 30% loss of tire life will cost him $400. With the second replacement set of steers, it will be even worse, with a possible 50% loss of tire life costing him $600. I guarantee installing a set of shocks will run a lot less, saving your customer considerable amount of money. Of course, similar calculations holds true for drive and trailer tires used on air ride suspensions. The key advice here is simply to follow the golden rule by treating others as you would wish to be treated, by offering your best professional advice that can help your customer have a more safe driving experience and save money. This requires a proactive, caring approach from you to engage the customer when you see that new shocks would be beneficial to them. As we discussed, most customers do not know what the service life of their shocks should be or what they might be risking. Use their tires and your tire wear charts to help explain the issue and make sure you ask how many miles are on the current set of shocks. Regardless if they buy shocks or not, you have helped them better understand how to mitigate their costs and travel more safely.